voting rights is he taking away from black voters?
Oh, if we look at the SAVE Act, that's exactly what we're talking about. That is actually going to continue to disenfranchise overwhelmingly a lot of people of color. There are so many civil rights organizations that have run the data. If we look at the way that it is going to disenfranchise black voters, it's the same reason why Chuck Schumer called it Jim Crow 2.0. So, it's the same president. If we want to continue to...
Well, I hope all you bitches look good in red, because the SAVE Act just passed the House, and that makes us all one step closer to living out The Handmaid's Tale.
Why should I have to give $165 to the government to give me a passport so that I can go tell the government that I'm a fucking citizen, to exercise my constitutional right to vote? The government already has all of this information. The only reason to make citizens and everyday people pay for their documentary proof of citizenship is to establish a poll tax.
Yo, like, the SAVE Act debacle was honestly the most strangest thing I've ever seen. Like, I know this is kind of old news, but it's like, I wanted to talk about it at some point, and I guess now is better than ever the time to talk about it. So it's just my first instinct on this whole debacle is like, why is this even a conversation to begin with? Like, the idea of strict, consistent, and efficient voter ID processes and requirements to ensure voting integrity and proper identification, that should be a bare minimum standard for any democratic country. You know, when you're electing a president or a prime minister or whatever head of state that you have in your country, it's like, you should be like enforcing proper procedures and have proper ID requirements to make sure that you are who you say you are and that you're an adult that is able to vote and that you were born in the country that you were born in. Like, why is this a controversy? Oh, I know why. From the Democratic point of view, they're trying to sit there and push this narrative again, that it disenfranchises certain demographics of people, basically insinuating that these racial minority groups and that married women are too stupid to get proper ID. As if you don't need ID to do a multitude of things in the States, like boarding on an airplane, entering into a bar, getting certain prescription drugs or certain packages. Like, y'all have no qualms getting that ID. I know that y'all people in the hood be getting them alcohol and them stuff, and that requires ID. Unless y'all are stealing, but whatever. Y'all understand that basic concept, but it's just the general idea of like, it disenfranchises certain demographics of people, but that has nothing to do with voter ID processes in and of itself. Like, the SAVE Act does not magically make it harder for certain groups of people to acquire ID. That issue is a whole separate thing altogether. Like, maybe if some of y'all weren't making your neighborhood so trashy and so dangerous, these establishments and these business and these more important, institutions wouldn't be so far away from y'all. Or at the very least, if you really value being able to vote as an individual American, then you would do everything in your power to do the bare minimum as an adult to get the proper ID to vote. And then some people making the argument of like, well, you should not have to pay to get ID to do certain things. I'm like, that's a whole nother conversation altogether. But overall, like, even me as a non-American, I Googled how much it costs to get certain types of ID, like driver's license, marriage certificate, a passport. They're not that expensive. Like, I think the most expensive thing for American ID was like a passport, which was like 130 USD. Like, you telling me you don't have a little over 100 USD to pay for a passport? And I mean, like, come on. There's really not much to go on this conversation, considering that based on my little research on like polls, surveys on Americans' opinions on the general concept of having government photo ID as a requirement to register to vote in federal elections and vote on federal elections, like the majority of Americans supported the idea of having those requirements. So realistically, why are we taking like the opinions of a minority of Americans that disagreed that seriously? Especially over something that should be common sense practice as a democratic society. And honestly, my last little complaint is more so just the general like government proceedings, particularly like the fact that these voting ID requirements are like on a state-by-state basis. Like, I feel like that should not be a thing. If you're going to vote or register to vote in federal elections, that should be like, there should be a federal agency specifically geared towards making these procedures on every state. Like, the states should not be making their own individual requirements, because as you can guess, these requirements vary depending on what state you go to. Generally speaking, like the blue states tend to be a lot more lenient with their voting ID requirements, and the red states are more strict. Like, that should not be a thing. There should not be inconsistent and varying levels of standards and requirements on a state. It should be a blanket set of standards nationwide. Like, the federal government should be the ones regulating that, not the states. That's just my opinion, though. Like, I honestly just think in any democratic society, when it comes to federally regulated affairs, it should be federal agencies created to enforce these standards in whichever state, province, territory, like jurisdiction, prefecture, whatever type of category, however these countries divide themselves into their own like jurisdictions, like should be regulated. Like, it should be on a federal level of regulation, not on a smaller government level of regulation. That's my main point. So kind of, yeah, it's just overall just the same type of regurgitated. This is not the first time that we've heard this argument being thrown up by the Democratic Party, like voting suppression and disenfranchisement, when it's really just like certain people not being able to do the bare minimum and getting their IDs in check. If you would like to make a donation, please check out the QR code or the link in the video description for my PayPal account. Thank you very much.